Hey, y'all, Gary here with Tennessee Stands. Hey, I had some conversations this week about the Republican Party. And, I get calls like this sometimes. I have conversations, constantly about different issues and whatnot. But this week was interesting because I had two or three calls like this. Gary, you're just trying to divide the Republican Party. I want to give some insight into my feelings on the Republican Party just a little bit, not only by my own statements, but by some statements of a conversation we had on the Freedom Matters podcast with Andy Roth. Look, this isn't just a state conversation. This is a national conversation. This whole idea that Republicans who defend or promote only 60%, 70%, 80% of the platform, we should just all get along. And my message to those folks is we are way beyond that. And that kind of attitude, the move to the middle attitude, the broaden the coalition attitude, we are losing. I don't know if you're looking around at what's happening nationally. I don't know if you're keeping an eye on places like California, or if you just go ahead and glance over towards the east and check out what's happening in the White House. Does it look like we are winning the battle with that kind of an attitude? So my message has been 100%, without fail, the Constitution. Period. We all operate according to the rules that we've agreed to play by. And we honor God in the midst. We understand where our rights come from. We hold government accountable. We don't accept that those in power have the ability to exceed or expand their authority beyond what they've been given in the Constitution. And this is the way we live. And we expect this of our governors, of our legislators, and our courts. And we hold them accountable. That's being a Republican. Anything short of that, anything less, any amount of compromise, we ought not to tolerate it. Look, if you can't defend the Constitution, if you can't defend social conservatism, if you can't defend limited government, if you can't defend all of the Republican platform, my message to you is you shouldn't be a Republican. Be an independent. But if you're going to call yourself a Republican and you're going to run for office as a Republican, then you ought to represent not only all of the platform, but you should be willing to fight for it unwaveringly without compromise. I want you to hear a message. This was 2 or 3 weeks ago. This is courtesy of the Freedom Matters podcast that I really enjoy getting to co-host with my friend Kevin Kookogee. And this is Andy Roth for the State Freedom Caucus Network. And here's what he had to say about the Republican Party.
For decades and decades, the public has been trained to believe that the country is a two-party system with Democrats and Republicans. Democrats are for bigger government. Republicans are for smaller government. Democrats want to take away your freedoms. Republicans want to keep and protect your freedoms. We need to get rid of that idea. There is no longer Republicans and Democrats. There is the uniparty, which is the Democrats and establishment Republicans. And then there are conservatives, or from my perspective, there's the House Freedom Caucus in Congress. So that's the new two-party system. What we're trying to do is export that idea and that notion into the states, because the states, like Tennessee, have the exact same problems as DC. And even though Tennessee is a deep red state that Trump won enormously, even though the voters themselves believe in limited government, they're socially conservative, even though the voters are with us, the establishment is not. And in Tennessee, you're seeing that just with sirens going off. There is no excuse for one of the most conservative states in the country, with Republican majorities in both houses and a Republican governor, to entertain the idea of having a special session to adopt red flag laws to take away your Second Amendment rights.
And he is 100% correct. This is the issue. The issue is good and evil. The issue is the Constitution versus a Marxist agenda. The issue is the Constitution versus a progressive and godless agenda, which is really what Marxism is. That's the fight we are in, and oftentimes in that battle, you don't find that the divide is actually the party line. We must clean house in the Republican Party because there is a large segment of the Republican Party that is playing the game along with the Democrats. And why? Well, because it benefits them. Whether that be money, power, influence, control, whatever the case may be, the Mitch McConnell Party, the Chamber of Commerce Republican Party, we play the game. We bow to our masters because it momentarily earns us something. The problem is, in the midst of that compromise, many don't see that it's leading to our complete and utter destruction. So I want to leave you with this clip. This was an opportunity that I had a few weeks ago to speak at Calvary Chapel Church in Chattanooga, an amazing church. They have a civics and culture ministry, and they have these monthly gatherings where they talk about these important issues. And I had an opportunity to speak, and this is what I had to say about why we cannot operate in the middle. Take a listen. So let's talk about this idea of the middle. I want to make sure you have a really clear picture of what the middle looks like. Because here's what we often think of the middle. We think it's just the straight up middle of the left and the right. And, on the right, I just think I am far right. I think it's pretty simple. It's the Constitution. That's what I believe. That's what's on. The right is the Constitution. That's it. The left, if you go all the way, is nothing but a progressive, godless agenda. It's the polar opposite. And so, oftentimes in error, we think the middle is just the middle of those two ideologies. But if you see here, it used to be, years ago, that the middle actually was really the right. I mean, think about the Republican Party in the early 1900s, late 1800s, right? The party that actually did away with slavery and promoted the rights of the individual, right? The Republican Party, in its inception, was a very constitutional party. And the Democrats were not as crazy as they are now. So the middle really was right. Then as time went on, the middle became the middle. But then here's where we are now. And maybe the donkey, let's go to the next slide, is maybe he should be off the cliff. I don't know, but I'm still holding on hope. But here's what I want you to understand. You are going to hear a lot of establishment players. I'll just say it. I'll just call it out. Bill Haslam. And I'm only saying this because he said it with his own mouth, so that's why I'm quoting him. It was interesting, a few months ago, I stumbled upon a podcast that is funded and developed, not funded actually, it's admittedly funded by Bill Haslam. It's produced by Vanderbilt University, and it's called Unity Talks. It's a discussion on the current political discourse. And I listened to one of the episodes, and Bill Haslam was interviewing, I can't remember the guy's name, he was interviewing a very high-level Republican political strategist. So kind of that guy that does the push polls and runs the campaigns. And they were having a conversation, some of it a really good conversation about how to win elections. Okay, so this was all about political strategy. Well, here's the problem. In Bill Haslam's mind, as he's talking, his goal is we have to broaden the base. We have to go to the middle. Why? Because it's the only way we can win general elections, and we have to invite more undecided voters into the Republican Party. It's the only way we can win. So it's this age-old political push to the middle, okay? This is how the establishment class is running the party. So you need to know that.
You need to know that a lot of your party operatives, a lot of your organized party members, this is how they think. Why? Because they're not thinking about the primary. They actually believe that conservatives can't win a general election. And so they are going to work their tail off keeping the primaries open, right? Doing everything they can do to ensure that the most moderate candidate wins in the primary so that in their mind, they have some hope of winning the general. But I want you to understand, if you are playing the middle, I just need you to see where you are. You are the left. Hear what I'm telling you. If you are willing to play the middle in 2023, you are the left. You are already the left.
I hope that makes sense to you. This is not about destroying the Republican Party. It's about saving it. And quite honestly, I want to make sure I'm clear, it's not even about the party. It's about our country. It's about our way of life. And the party is only as valuable as it is effective at preserving our Constitution and the way that we live here in America. And if it's not accomplishing that goal, then it's being ineffective and it has lost its value. Right now, I believe the Republican Party is still worth saving. But we can't save it by playing the game on the left. And see, this is the problem, and this is where we find ourselves. This is where we find ourselves in the general because of the losses that we're taking in our primary elections across the state. Because we're being outmanned and outgunned, well, by money and special interest influence. This has to change. And I need every Republican to hear me within the sound of my voice. This is not about dividing the party. This is not about infighting. But what it is about holding members of our own party, just like we do in the church, accountable to the truth. If we are unwilling to hold each other accountable, if we are unwilling to hold each other to a standard, we will lose our country and we will lose the state. And we will have failed our children in the next generations. So I encourage all of you Tennesseans, stand firm in what you know to be true. Be unwavering, be consistent, and we can win this. God bless you.